This is your brother Kiyalawan. About to give y'all some quick edification on this wicked ass holiday called Halloween. Okay, Halloween, man, is gonna lead you to the uh, Halloween is gonna lead you to burn with the lake of fire. Okay, Halloween is gonna lead you to burn with hell. Right. So you need to understand these things and what you um are out here participating in because this shit gets pretty the further you go back into it, it gets pretty interesting. I would say, um, just because the ancient origins of it is like is ruled in idolatry, witchcraft, um, paganism, and just rituals and ceremonies that's following after the heathen. So that's not what you want to do. And matter of fact, just let me bring out. I just want to bring out a couple scriptures real quick. Um, so when I say to burn, the first chapter. Yeah. So I'm gonna start at the verse 14. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. See, that's what the hell is. Worshiping and participating in Halloween is gonna get you. It's gonna get you. It's gonna get you to burn with death. It's gonna get you to burn with hell in a lake of fire. Because it's not gonna give you salvation at all. You know, that's just something that it's just not gonna do. Because you look at the history, which I'm about to go into, it's pretty crazy. So start right here, Halloween, and this is right here is just on the History Channel website. But this is something that's just not it's not hidden. It's not no oh I gotta go find this this extra deep ass knowledge. It's right here hidden in plain sight. People just gotta wake up. So Halloween is a holiday celebrated each year on October 31st, and Halloween 2021 will occur on Sunday, October 31st. The tradition originated with the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, when people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as a time to honor All Saints. Soon, All Saints Day incorporated some of the traditions of Samhain. The evening before was known as All Hallows Eve and later Halloween. Over time, Halloween evolved into a day of activities like trick-or-treating, carving jack-o'-lanterns, festive gatherings, donning costumes, and eating treats. Right? Halloween's origins date back to the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, pronounced Solin. Uh, the Celtics, who lived 2,000 years ago, mostly in the area now Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France, celebrated their New Year on November 1st. This day marked the end of summer and the harvest, and the beginning of the dark, cold winter, a time of year that was often associated with human death. Celts believed that on the night before the New Year, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead became blurred. On the night of October 31st, they celebrated Samhain, when it was believed that the ghosts of the dead returned to Earth. Now, knowing the Bible, we already know that it shouldn't be ghosts returning back to Earth. More likely what they're probably encountering is some demonic entity or that's coming back and forth, and they're trying to deal with them because they're not covered by the shield. You feel what I'm saying? But let's go into some of this. This is Sam Haines one I have up here already. So Samhain is a pagan religious festival originated from an ancient Celtic spiritual tradition. In modern times, Samhain, a Gaelic word pronounced Samhain, is usually celebrated from October 31st to November 1st to welcome in the harvest, usher the dark half of the year. Celebrate let the barrier between the physical world and the spiritual world break down during Samhain, allowing more interaction between humans and denizens of the other world. Uh, Ancient Samhain. Ancient Celts marked Samhain as the most significant of the four quarterly fire festivals. So this one was considered the most significant, right? The most significant. That's what they consider this one the most significant of the four quarterly fire festivals, taking place at midpoint between the fall equinox and the winter solstice. Hmm. During this time of year, hearth fires in family homes were left to burn out while the harvest were gathered. After harvest work was complete, so celebrants joined with Druid priests. That's a whole other subject right there. We can dive into that a little bit. To light a community fire using a wheel that would cause friction and spark flames. The wheel was considered a representation of the sun and used along with prayers. Cattle were sacrificed, so now they have things being sacrificed, right? And participants took a flame from the communal bonfire back to their home to relight the hearth. So they're gonna go out and commit sacrifices and then do what? Bring it back home. Early text presents Samhain as a mandatory celebration. So this right here was mandatory. A mandatory celebration lasting 3 days and 3 nights where the community was required to show themselves to local kings and chieftains. Failure to participate was believed to result in punishment from the gods. So they believe that their gods will punish you if you didn't participate, unless you're ill or you're dead. Alright, so let's see. Samhain monsters. Because the Celts believed that the barrier between the worlds was breachable during Samhain, they prepared offerings, sacrifices, and offerings that were left outside villages and fields for fairies or Sids. I don't know what the hell that is, but pretty sure along the lines of whatever it is. Right? It was expected that ancestors might cross over during this time as well, and Celts would dress as animals and monsters so that the fairies were not tempted to get at them. This is what these people believe, man. You know, it was that it was demons running around, right? They call them fairies. You know, they had to dress up as animals and monsters so to confuse them, right? They they thought the ancestors would come back around too. This is getting to be kind of weird. Some specific monsters were associated with the mythology surrounding Samhain, including a shape-shifting creature called Pukot that received harvest offerings from the field. The Lady Gwen is a headless woman dressed in white who chases night wanderers and is accompanied by a black pig, an unclean ceremonial pig. Right. So look, this is right here. The Dohan sometimes appeared as impish creatures, sometimes headless men on horses who carried their heads, riding flame-eyed horses. Their appearance was death omen to anyone who encountered them. So I know you've seen that plenty times in plenty movies, um, where they got that the headless horseman. So that's going into the Middle Ages. We switch to pumpkins in the Middle Ages. Progress of the celebration, the festivals, became tradition. So and you can just see how this is where Samhain merges with Halloween to become one, and then Wiccan and Samhain, the broad revival of Samhain resembled the traditions. The traditional pagan form began in the 1980s with the growing popularity of Wicca. So now people are trying to bring it back. Wicca's celebration of Samhain takes on many forms, from traditional fire ceremonies to celebrations that embrace many aspects of modern Halloween, as well as activities related to honoring nature or ancestors. Wiccans look at Samhain as the passing of the year and incorporate common Wiccan traditions into the celebration. In the Druid tradition, Samhain celebrates the dead with a festival on October 31st. Usually features a bonfire and communion with the dead. American pagans often hold music and dance celebration called witches' balls in proximity to Samhain. People think this shit is a game. This is so much spiritual fornication and idolatry. With on this day, October 31st, people should be praying and fasting for real. But let's go check out these quote Wiccans or Wicca. Wicca is a modern day nature based pagan religion. Though rituals and practices vary among people who identify as Wiccan, most observations include the festival celebration of solstices and equinoxes, and the honoring of a male god and female goddess, and the incorporation of herbalism and other natural objects into rituals. So they saying herbalism and other natural objects. That's kind of like doing like spells and shit. You know, give me the green tea leaf and the barley. All kinds of stuff like that. Wiccans practice their religion according to an ethical code, and many believe in reincarnation, which they're right on that. Wicca is considered a modern interpretation. Wicca is considered a modern interpretation of pre-Christian traditions, though some involve claim a direct line to ancient practices and may be practiced by individuals or community groups known as covens. Wiccan also has some commonalities with Druidism in its environmental component and is considered the inspiration of the goddess movement in spirituality. And they worship in both a female goddess and male goddess, sometimes referred to as a mother goddess and foreign god. Yeah, so people need to be careful when it comes to these things, because that's associated with witchcraft. That's where the word Wicca comes from. Like this, Wicca is a modern part of occultist stream in Western exotericism. It was developed in England during the first half of the 20th century and was introduced in public in 1964 by Gerald Gardner, a retired British civil servant. Wicca draws upon diverse sects of ancient pagan and 20th century Hermetic motifs for its theological structure and ritual practices. Wicca has no central authority figure. That right there, look, modern pagan witchcraft religion. So that right there can show. Look at that. It got the 5-star pentagram in there. You see that right there? Look at that. I can tell you how the Most High is not dealing with these people because, hey, it says Wicca has no central authority or figure. The Most High does everything decently in order, as it says in Corinthians 14. So anyway, let's go back to this right here. So the ancient organs of Halloween. So we got what the Samhain is. Now we're gonna look at who these Celts are. Who were the Celts? The Celts were a collection of tribes with origins in Central Europe that shared a similar language, religious belief, traditions, and culture. It believed that the Celtic culture started to evolve as early as 1200 BC. The Celts spread throughout Western Europe, including Britain, Ireland, France, and Spain via migration. The legacy remained most prominent in Ireland and Great Britain, where traces of their language and culture are still prominent today. The existence of Celts was first documented in the 7th or 8th century BC. 7th to 8th century BC. It's first documented. The Roman Empire, which ruled much of southern Europe at that time, referred to the Celts as Galli, meaning barbarians. However, Celts pronounced with a hard C or K sound were anything but barbarians, and many aspects of their culture and language have survived throughout the centuries. Celtics in Spain and Galatians. So that's pretty much where the Celtics were, right? Yeah, okay, so let's go back to this. In the day marking end of summer and harvest, cold winter, so believe that on the night before the new year, the boundary between the worlds. Okay. It's believed that ghosts of the day return to Earth. In addition to causing trouble and damaging crops, Celts thought that the presence of other worldly spirits made it easier for the Druids or Celtic priests to make predictions about the future. For people entirely dependent on the volatile nature, or Salakia, on the volatile natural world. These prophecies were an important source of comfort during the long dark winter. To commemorate the event, Druids built huge sacred bonfires where people gathered to burn crops and animals as sacrifices to the Celtic deities. During the celebration, the Celts wore costumes, typically consisting of animal heads and skins, and attempting to tell each other's fortune. When celebrations were over, they relit their hearth fires, which they had extinguished earlier that evening, from the sacred bonfire to help protect them during the coming winter. Right? So this is clearly showing, it's clearly telling you, right, that they would burn crops, like I said, bonfires, and then animal sacrifices to the Celtic deities. And during the celebration, the Celts wore costumes typically consisting of animal heads and skins and attempted to tell each other's fortune. So they right there, they're sacrificing to their deities, right? So they're putting on this costume, animal heads and skins. That's essentially what they're following a custom, a ritual, and attempting to tell each other's fortune. That's another law that they're breaking. Should be no. You shouldn't be trying to tell no. What's that, divination? You shouldn't be a diviner. That's what they're doing, and they're doing that in plain sight, in plain sight of everybody. And that's what we're doing, not knowing. And we just following after the customs, right? Let me see. I think it's you know what? Let me use this one right here because I'm already over here. This is Leviticus chapter 19, verse 26. Ye shall not eat anything with blood, neither shall ye use enchantment, nor observe time. Read in the NLT, it says, do not eat meat that has not been drained of its blood. Do not practice fortune telling or witchcraft. That's literally what it's telling you not to do, and you therefore doing it. Right? That's what we're doing. So that's what we're doing now. When literally right there it says this is something that you should not do. And clearly we're doing it. Clearly we're doing it. Do we know that we're really doing it? Not really. But you should just feel it's off. Right? But let's get into they keep saying these druids, right? Uh who these Said there was Druid priests. The Druid was a member of a high-ranking class in ancient Celtic cultures. Druid were religious leaders as well as legal authorities, educators, lore keepers, medical professionals, and political advisors. Druids left no written records. They were reported to have been literate. While they were reported to have been literate, they are believed to have been prevented by doctrine from recording their knowledge in written form. Their beliefs and practices are attested in some detail by their contemporaries from other cultures, such as the Romans and the Greeks. So, this is the earliest known references to the Druids date to the 4th century BC. The oldest detailed description comes from Julius Caesar. They were described by Roman writers Tacitus and Pliny the Elder. So they were people that lived. It's not nothing that's made up. So following from an invasion by Gaul, the Jewish orders were suppressed by the Roman government in the 1st century. Tiberius and Claudius had disappeared from written record by the 2nd century. About Jewish appearance on the medieval tales, Christian Ireland, largely portrayed as sorcerers who opposed the coming of Christianity. That's how they were. That's how they were portrayed as sorcerers who opposed the coming of Christianity. All right, so let's get a. I don't want to look up the etymology. Hmm. Sacrifice. Greek and Roman writers frequently made reference to the Jewish as practitioners of human sacrifice. According to Caesar, those who have been found guilty of theft or other criminal offenses were considered preferably for use as sacrificial victims. But when criminals were in short supply, innocents would be accepted. So you can be innocent and still get sacrificed, right? A form of sacrifice recorded by Caesar was the burning alive of victims in a large wooden effigy, now known as the Wicker Man. Wicker Man and Wicca. Mm. And if you know anything about Wicca, have done any studies, a lot of women who practice the Wicca. And their practices are what? Based off the ancient Druids. I mean, if you're a man dealing with a Wicca or one that's Wiccan, then you can be pretty much a sacrifice. So you gotta be careful, brothers, who you deal with. A differing account came from the 10th century Commenta Bernicia, which states that the sacrifice of the deities uh, were, I ain't about to pronounce their names, were by drowning, hanging, and burning, respectively. Wow, see threefold death. That's crazy. So this is how they would sacrifice you to these deities. So this person asserts that the sacrifice acceptable to the sex's gods had to be attended by a druid, for they were the intermediaries between the people and the divinities. He marked upon the importance of prophets and druid ritual. This is crazy. Listen, these men predict the future by observing the flight and calls of birds and by the sacrifice of holy animals. All orders of society are in their power, and in very important matters they prepare a human victim, plunging a dagger into his chest by observing the way his limbs convulse as he falls and the gushing of his blood. They were able to read the future. What? Archaeological evidence from Western Europe has been widely used to support the view that Iron Age Celts practiced human sacrifice. Mass graves found in a ritual context dating from this period have been unearthed in Gaul, both in these places and in what was the region of the Belgae chiefdom. The excavator of these sites, Jean-Louis Bernard, interpreted them as areas of human sacrifice and devotion to a war god. Although this view was criticized by another archaeologist, Martin Brown, who believed that the corpses might be those of honored warriors buried in a sanctuary rather than sacrifices. Some historians have questioned whether the Greco-Roman writers were accurate in their claims. J. Rise remarked that it was ambiguous whether the Druids ever performed such sacrifices, for the Romans and Greeks were known to project what they saw as barbarian traits into foreign peoples, including not only Druids but Druze Christians as well, thereby confirming their own cultural superiority in their minds. I mean, true, but they didn't say that we were performing like human sacrifices and things like that, man. Like, that's crazy. And you can see the picture right over here. Look at this. This is probably your two fucking druids doing all sorts of witchcraft, and these are the couple criminals and some innocent people. They happy. Look at them. Knowing in real life they wasn't this happy. We're trying to escape. They probably were crying. And this is what they did, man. From an 18th century illustration of a wicker man, the form of execution that Caesar wrote the Druids used in their human sacrifice. The person was next to get in line to get in there. I mean, what happened? I mean, look at them. They got the bonfire. Sacrifice some humans, man. I'm just gonna read this. I'm gonna read it in the NLT. The Lord said to Moses, "Give the people of Israel these instructions, which apply both to native Israelites and the foreigners living in Israel. If any of them offer their children as sacrifice to Molech, they must be put to death. The people of the community must stone them to death. I myself will turn against them and cut them off from the community, because they have defiled my sanctuary and brought shame on my holy name by offering their children to Molech." So that's what they're doing, man. They're sacrificing the various idols. They're gods, they're deities, man. So when you participate in Halloween, what are you doing? You're following the same pagan traditions. Like people say that you're following pagan traditions. Now you know exactly what those fucking pagan traditions and rituals were. Let's go back to the what's the name? Go back to the KJV. Verse 22. You should therefore keep all my statutes and my judgments and do them in the land where I bring you to dwell therein. And you should not walk in the matter of the nations which I cast out before you. They committed all these things, and I abhorred them. You see, even back then we were walking, or he had to tell us, "Don't do this because I don't like it." And here it is nowadays. We were given the law not to do the things, and we still doing things, man. So Halloween come around, you know. Hopefully, you look at this later in the day. Matter of fact, I might release this the day before, night before. People can know the day before, so people can see that you shouldn't be following in these traditions. Because if you do, what's going to happen? You're going to willingly be subjecting yourself to these 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 other gods, these other deities. You know, you're going to be sacrificing to them, and you're doing all this not knowing the consequences. Because when judgment comes up on this land, you think he's gonna want to care? Like you're literally following the same traditions and practices that they were following, except the only difference is you're not them, and you're not directly saying I'm worshiping this god, but you're still doing all the same rituals. You might as well. That's like us doing the same practices and doing the sacrifice to our God. We say we're not worshiping our God, but we're doing the same sacrifice and killing the meat in the same way. So that's why y'all need to repent, man. Return back to these laws that He's given us, and it will help you. And with that, I'm gonna give all honor and praise and glory to Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Shalom.